CNN just dropped an absolute integrity hand grenade right into JD Vance's lap. You know, that place where his childless cat lady usually sits. This ultra-revealing story from CNN just goes to show and goes to the heart of how much JD Vance is a political, two-faced, Donald Trump, hypocritical hand puppet. I mean, first and foremost, before we even get to the breaking story, if you can't recall some of the things that JD Vance once said about Donald Trump, just be reminded by these right here. This should be a nice, helpful reminder for you. And on top of that, yeah, JD Vance has not apologized and been completely unwavering in his constant attacks of Kamala in the fact that she flip-flops on the border or fracking or whatever it may be, right?
The media is so desperate to let her get away with this that they don't even push her on the fact that she's changed her mind allegedly on 8 different topics. I think she answered one question yesterday about how she changed her mind. It was a bit of a word salad, and I don't think it actually gave Americans any insight into who Kamala Harris really is. She's been coached to pretend to be a moderate.
Rut-row, Rorge. Uh-oh. This crucial breaking story by CNN is going to have you standing around going, that's right. People who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Yeah, it's a little bit of a dicey effort because all those things you said about Trump? So my question today is it JD Hamill or is it JD Vance? Do you dislike Donald Trump or is it a bromance? Let's check and see now.
President Trump represents America's last best hope to restore what, if lost, may never be found again.
Ooh, that hurts a little bit, doesn't it, JD? Because now CNN on this breaking story just caught you in a flip-flop so big, Jimmy Buffett would be proud and have a cocktail and a song made for you. Whoopsie poop.
12, slamming Republicans on immigration. Say it again, slamming Republicans on immigration. An essay Vance asked a former professor to delete when he decided to run for office as a Republican. Now, the professor did delete it, but RK File found it anyway. And in it, Vance writes, quote, Republicans lose minority voters for simple and obvious reasons. Their policy proposals are tired, unoriginal, or openly hostile to non-whites. Andrew Kaczynski of the K-File joins me now. So, okay, there's one very clean operative quote. What else did you find in this essay that JD Vance had requested his professor to delete? The professor did delete and JD Vance thought was gone.
Yeah, JD Vance eviscerated the Republican Party in this blog post. He attacked their position on women, minorities, people of color, immigrants, attacked many of the very same positions that he's advancing today. Let's just walk people through one of them, immigration. Deportation has really been at the heart of Donald Trump's campaign. But take a look here at what JD Vance wrote about deportation in 2012. He said a, quote, significant part of the Republican immigration policy centers on the possibility of deporting 12 million people or self-deporting them. Think about it. We conservatives rightly mistrust the government to efficiently administer business loans and regular food supplies, yet we allegedly believe they can deport millions of unregistered aliens. This notion fails to pass the laugh test. The same can be said for much of the party's platform, okay? And now let's take a look too here.
Okay, that's clear.
Let's look at what he said about how he viewed the GOP and how other people viewed the GOP. He said, you cannot nominate people like Sarah Palin who scare away swing voters. You can't alienate every growing voting bloc of the American electorate, blacks, Latinos, the youth, and you can't depend solely on a single shrinking bloc of the electorate, whites. Yet 4 years later, I am forced again to reflect on a party that nominated the worst kind of people, like Richard Murdoch, and tried to win an election by appealing to only white people. Richard Murdoch had made some comments, controversial comments about rape in a 2012 Senate race and lost by 6 points as a Republican in Indiana.
This is incredible. Talking about the very policy that Trump is deporting, right? As you point out at the center, it fails to pass the laugh test. The same can be said for too much of the party's platform. Okay, so now I understand why he might want this scrubbed from the internet. And he did. He asked his professor to delete it, and they did. So it got deleted, and yet you found it. To this, there's more where this came from. This is important because it's policy. But when he's talked about Trump, we know he'd been critical about Trump. His whole thing has been talking about how he woke up and realized he was going to change his mind about Trump. But you have found more and more instances where he has been highly critical of Trump, things that we have not seen before, including one new example. What is it?
Yeah, and what's really interesting about this is, like, we knew he was a Trump hater, like you said, but this sort of takes it to the next level. He wrote on Facebook in 2016 during the RNC, quote, "His very existence helps discredit nearly every idea and belief I cared about." And then he even took some shots at Trump voters, saying they're obviously vile racists at the core of Trump's movement. Now, other parts of those comments defend Trump's voters, but that is obviously not something that we would hear him say today.
No, no one would ever think that anybody who had said all of these things would be Trump's vice presidential nominee and choice, and yet here we are. This is important for everyone to see. All right, Andrew Kaczynski of K-File, thank you.
How great is that? Blueprint for the GOP. You know what's really kind of tragically and sad, aside from a whole bunch of things about JD Vance, is the guy from 2012 was actually on the right track. And that just goes to show that the hillbilly is more than just an elegy. Once again, JD Hamill or JD Vance. We're just not quite sure. But one of the things that it does do for me when I see a clip like that and be reminded of how much someone can be a hypocrite and flip-flop, it harkens me back to an old school game show that many of you might actually remember, called To Tell the Truth, indeed, where finally the end of the show, when all gets revealed, just like this breaking CNN story, it begs the question,
will the real
JD Vance stand up? Yeah. Again, thanks for listening. I'm Kevin E., and please do your best to be like Barack. And as he always says, folks, don't boo, vote.